In November 2018, a 26-year-old American man paid local fishermen to drop him off near a small island in the Indian Ocean. He knew it was illegal to go there. He knew the last people who tried to make contact were killed. He went anyway. The fisherman waited offshore, just like he'd asked, far enough to stay safe, close enough to see the beach. When they returned the next morning, he was gone. Then they saw why. The islanders were dragging his body across the sand and burying him where he fell. He was never coming back. His body has never been recovered. No one has ever been prosecuted for his death. And the island he died on is still, to this day, completely off limits, protected not just by the ocean around it, but by the people who've lived there for an estimated 60,000 years without ever letting the modern world in. This is North Sentinel Island, and it might be the last place on Earth where the outside world has completely failed to get in. North Sentinel Island sits in the Bay of Bengal, part of India's Andaman Islands chain. From the air, it looks unremarkable, a small patch of dense jungle ringed by coral reef, roughly the size of Manhattan. But nobody has ever mapped what's inside it. Not the terrain, not the villages, not even a reliable population count. Estimates range from 50 to 500 people. Nobody actually knows, because nobody has ever gotten close enough, for long enough, to find out. The Sentinelese, the people who live there, are believed to be among the last uncontacted peoples on Earth. Genetic and anthropological evidence suggests their ancestors arrived in the region as part of one of the earliest human migrations out of Africa, tens of thousands of years before the pyramids, before agriculture, before written language existed anywhere on the planet. While the rest of humanity spent those millennia building empires, crossing oceans, and eventually reaching the moon, the Sentinelese stayed exactly where they were, isolated, untouched. And as far as anyone can tell, they prefer it that way. They have no known contact with any other human society, not neighboring islands, not passing sailors, not colonial powers, not modern governments. Every attempt to change that has ended the same way. The history of outside contact with North Sentinel Island is short, and almost every entry ends in violence. In 1880, a British colonial expedition landed on the island and captured 6 Sentinelese, an elderly couple and 4 children, hoping to build a relationship through kindness. The 2 adults died shortly after from illness. The children were eventually returned to the island, likely bringing disease with them that may have devastated a population with zero immunity to outside pathogens. For the next century, the island was largely left alone, not out of respect, but because nobody could safely land on it. In the 1970s and 80s, Indian anthropologists made repeated attempts at peaceful contact, approaching by boat and leaving gifts on the beach: coconuts, bits of iron, sometimes a live pig. Some of these visits ended without incident. Others ended with a hail of arrows fired from the tree line before the boat could even reach shore. In 2006, 2 fishermen whose boat drifted too close to the island while they slept were killed. When an Indian Coast Guard helicopter attempted to recover their bodies, it was driven back by archers on the beach. Their bodies were never returned. By 2018, the Indian government had made its policy permanent and absolute. North Sentinel Island was closed. No visitors, no exceptions. Getting within several miles of the coastline is a criminal offense under Indian law, not to protect outsiders from the Sentinelese, but to protect the Sentinelese from us. That's the law the young missionary broke in November 2018, and paid for with his life. Here's the part that surprises most people. The ban isn't really about safety for outsiders. It's about survival for the Sentinelese. Isolated populations like this one have had zero exposure to diseases that the rest of humanity has spent thousands of years developing immunity to: the common cold, measles, influenza. History has already shown what happens when that immunity gap meets first contact. When European colonizers reached the Americas, diseases they carried casually, smallpox in particular, wiped out an estimated 90% of the indigenous population within a century, faster and more completely than any war ever could. The Indian government's policy is built directly on that lesson. A single infected visitor, even one who feels perfectly healthy, could carry a virus capable of collapsing the entire Sentinelese population within weeks. There would be no vaccines available to them, no hospitals, no way to stop it. And uncontacted people who survived 60,000 years of human history could be erased in a single season by something as simple as a cold. That's why, even after a body was left on that beach, the Indian government made a decision that stunned a lot of people. They didn't send in an armed team. They didn't retaliate. They quietly closed the investigation and left the island alone. Because from the government's perspective, the greater threat was never the arrows on the beach. So, what does anyone actually know about life on North Sentinel Island? Almost nothing, and that's not an exaggeration. Drone footage and rare boat-based observations have shown small huts along the coastline, canoes used for fishing within the reef, and evidence of controlled fires. Beyond that, researchers can only guess. There's no confirmed language sample, no verified population count, no understanding of their belief systems, their social structure, or how they've managed to sustain a community in near-total isolation for tens of thousands of years. In a world where satellites can photograph a single car from orbit, where every remote corner of Earth has been mapped, climbed, or live-streamed, North Sentinel Island remains a genuine, complete blank spot. Not because we lack the technology to go there, because we've made the rare choice not to. There's something almost unsettling about that if you sit with it. In an era where privacy barely exists anywhere else on the planet, one small island has managed to keep an entire way of life completely hidden, not through secrecy, but through defending it, arrow by arrow, for over a century. We don't know their names. We don't know their language. We don't know how they see the modern world flying over their heads in planes, or the cargo ships passing just beyond their reef. And for now, at least, that's exactly how it's going to stay.